honestly do like APPs, but like, don't do that. And also don't do honors classes. Like you're gonna want to? No, they're actually accepting a piece next year. No. Like if they're junior, I would say yeah, you're fine. You took 7. I took 6.
I did not like that.
I didn't like. I don't like to hear this online. Bro, what?
Yeah, you just drop from
That's the thing, like, what do? You drop from AP, you go to, like, nothing. Like, there's no, like, free AP. I mean, there's, like, free AP, but, like, regular, I mean, you kind of just gotta stick it through, bro. Like, that's the thing with high school. Like, in college, you can just drop a class, but you can't, like, do that in high school.
What's the angle? Oh.
You know how many credits you're getting? Is it like 30 credits? Or that's
the physics exam.
Bro,
I
I feel
don't know.
when does it come out?
It doesn't matter. Only ones that
You need
matter.
4 and 5.
They don't need it for your major. Physics.
You need physics and comp. I need a 5. You need a 5? Yeah.
Did you study?
For physics?
Yeah.
Holy shit,
I was grinding because I didn't pay attention in school.
That's
the
crazy.
entire year.
How did you study?
Flipping physics.
That's how he doesn't have it.
He does.
You go ahead,
He was like watching the whole thing of this, and I was like trying to get through like this one video through everything.
oh, that, like, just like goes over the
Yeah,
whole,
the review of
Like
it.
the
bro,
15-minute one.
that thing doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Bro. That tells you, like, KQQ over R.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
That genuinely was the only thing I studied.
That's how they do,
Probably
bro.
also, I'm gonna get like, I'm gonna be happy with like.
Dude, if you can get 1 FRQ and like 10 out of 35 SU, that's what I'm confident about. That's what I'm confident. I only going to do 1 FRQ, bro. And like half.
Wait, did you write the equations?
Yeah, that's good. That's good partial
They
credit.
give you like 2.
Yeah. If you just write the equation, that's relevant.
I don't know.
Also, what time is it? Should we start? Actually, no, we spoke about it.
Oh yeah, I just realized.
Dude, now he's injured.
Silent launch. It was like super school.
Wait, how did he like twisted his ankle playing basketball? The city can kill him. Where's the mama mentality? Maybe you
I
can't
just
just bucket.
replaced it. Or I'll do number 1, I guess. If you want to talk about 1, because you use it.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh, what
it's
is
about
This
this.
is physics.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
You can do that.
That was secure like mind shaping experience. Right?
What's the order? Oscars?
But you can talk about like how you're on the fence between UT and like.
Yeah.
That'd be a good topic. You could like get your emotions into it.
I mean, I can do half of it if you want. You just tell me which part. Just tell me which part you want to do, and I can just take over. Oh, I guess I go affordability because that shit's like.
Oh, I'll just do this. I'll just do this one.
Then do you want me to do the first like up until
Yeah, up until now.
Oh shit, let me look. Or take the I can do this.
4 majors.
Okay, so you're doing the second half of 1, right? And then I'm doing 2.
Yeah, we're doing it until.
Okay, you're doing starting there. Yeah. Wait, let me look real quick. Wait, I'm starting here, right? Okay, and then I'm doing 2 as well. Choosing the right college.
I think.
Wait, is this part of my thing?
I think Gilbert might do that, but I think for sure you'll start here.
Oh, you started here.
but he might do the introduction.
You might do
The table of
this
contents.
one? Okay.
But like, if he gives you the mic, you can just do it.
What if that Mark wants
Just like drop something loud, like hold like a water bottle. So
Oh, I only have like 2
think
slides
about it
left. Okay,
first,
so
just
you'll
drop
take
it
it.
and then at the same time. So no one just like how much.
Make it before today? Or I'm gonna sell it. Let's go for you.
Just like mine wasn't.
It's fine. Just be happy.
But not like it.
Well, I could tell my.
Like soccer game.
Choose CP. Are you CSP? Oh, nice. You're CP. Your favorite. Everyone's favorite. Everyone's. He hated computer. He was so annoying in classes. Someone told me.
It was like nice to meet. Like ask me what your questions are. Just answer what you think.
No, and that way he's nice. I think he's like, I was motivated.
My goal is anything.
Yeah, we just trying to bro. See how this goes. I was motivated. Is it a joke?
But we're now like.
We're not gonna go. Wait, do you talk about We should talk about that. I can do it like this.
Okay, yeah. Just
Yeah,
talk
talk about it in
it.
the Zoom chat.
Did you visit Penn before that?
I had no demonstration. Because I don't think they even said it.
Yeah.
They don't? There was a section of like
Unless you read like Penn admissions.
because I'm Common App, some like private schools have like
Like most schools have that. I feel like
Penn didn't.
some, yeah, I feel like Rice does it.
Yeah, Rice does it.
Duke does it.
It's Sid early to do.
He early got deferred and then got.
Oh, nice.
I think his sister's also here. So.
Yeah, he said he wanted to go to his sister.
Yeah, when she spoke of God, you know, even in spite of being the spoke of God, somehow not.
It was starting like 3 minutes. 12:15. Started 12:15.
Yeah, just like elaborate.
I'm like there.
I'm trying to see which schools apply, like, consider demonstrators.
I think Washington. Wow, is it because what did she do?
Well, she did something.
Brothers that go.
Her brother. Is he a grade below you? He's already sweating. He's already sweating.
Brother was asking me for my resume.
Bro, and you gave it to
I
him.
gave it to
You
him.
gave it to him?
That's my son. That's my son.
I'll check out. You gotta raise him well.
He's in
Do you wanna go to
TSA.
UT?
He's gonna be the president of TSA next year.
Really? Wait, are you
this year?
president?
No, this year's gonna be Aquila. He's gonna be
It's who?
Aquila.
Oh, I remember.
Fraudulent.
I remember she wants to go to Stanford. Anant's gonna get this time.
I wish her good luck.
Oh yeah, not this girl.
Anant's gonna get Stanford, bro. Yeah.
Anant got it.
He was like, I told him, he was like for sure going to MIT, and he was like, no, bro, MIT is hard.
Dude, Anant's like that. It kind of pisses me off because he knows he's a cute.
He's for sure like MIT.
But I don't know. You can't say that.
Dude, yeah, he camped twice, bro.
You did.
Camped as a sophomore.
I don't know what that means, but yes.
Top 20 in history of camp. Yeah, so
But there's some crap. Do you know Phoenix?
I've heard of that. Phoenix.
Bro, he can't
Oh,
all
is it
4
still-
years.
Wait, what?
No, from 7 years.
Oh
When
yeah, I saw that on Venus. Yeah. 7 like that's small. And like my
Maybe you're sick from it. I'm so out of it.
Your response. They're coming, they're coming. The 100 times. Where?
They come for people.
Probably 14. It's like she makes it.
Let's just say when they start.
Yeah, she's here for 3 minutes. You want to say use the mic, use the mic. Oh, there is a mic.
TSA teacher.
Alright. We're starting in 2 minutes. Let's see, we're starting in 2 minutes.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We're gonna start at about 12:15 after we get a couple more people. Thank you. What time is it right now?
12:30. Just count the seconds. There you go, I guess we. They'll probably just ask me. We're saying different stuff. And yeah, no, it's the same stuff. It's different people though. It's different people. It's all different people. So,
I told him.
I mean, it's fine. My parents would have made me clean the book too. You can't say that as someone who's coming. But like it's like a factor statement. It is a factor statement. But I feel like coming from us, it's like wait, that's not like changing. No, saying it's not like prestige or like rankings isn't like the most important thing. Finding the right. Like when you're finding, I feel like during my section, it's like exploring, like researching schools, like that's important to say. In my like sound here from the book. I think that's it. Like when you're talking one-on-one, it's like not you're not looking. Are you trying to do like software? No. Like you don't want to do it? No, I don't want to. Oh, you don't want to? I want to work do something like physical. Hardware? Yeah. Okay. Like what kind of video? Yeah. I mean like software, like honestly that's gonna be like involved. Like I don't want to just like code all day. That's fair.
Business kid. Yes.
Really? Business?
No, I'm like interested in being a set too.
Really?
To an extent. I enjoyed it. Like when I was like making video games.
You make games? Okay.
TSA.
I mean, what I learned is if you do comp sci, you can major, you can do whatever you want. You can do like any business. Like go over to the business.
She's so like chill about it. Like one time she said something horrifying and she was like, alright. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's also like the cats thing. Oh, but like she's not like enthusiastic about it, but she's not like she doesn't.
You're starting software.
Like not for the patients, just
Hello everyone. How's everyone's morning?
Good.
Awesome. Just a quick survey poll. Does anyone have a student or is a student as a freshman? Nice. What about sophomores?
Sophomore next year in high school, like in the fall.
Yeah. So we're looking for Okay, no sophomores. What about you, Tejas?
Oh, my sister's a sophomore.
Okay. Does anyone have a junior student or is a junior student? Is anyone a senior, upcoming senior? Oh, wow. Okay, you guys are in good hands because there's a lot you can still do within a year. So even if you think you're not prepared, great. Welcome to the ScholarU Free College Seminar. Even if your parents force you to come here, we hope you guys take something away from this. So today's topics, we're going to be looking at our introductions, getting to know our mentors over here. Then we'll go into choosing the right college, understanding application components, navigating standardized testing, so like SAT and ACT. And then big important question is the financial aid and scholarships. So we're going to look at how that can help you and how you can pick the right ones. And then looking at application strategies and timelines, admission interviews and campus visits. So if you need to, talk with your admissions officer, look at your campuses. Then we're going into like our own personal anecdotes, like how we've gone through it, well, how they've gone through it actually. And then we'll look at Q&A session. So you guys can ask us any questions, and maybe everyone needs to hear it, hear your question, and then we can answer it all together. Then optionally, if we do have time allotted, we'll go into breakout groups, so we get a little more personal experience, and then we'll do our closing remarks from there. In the middle of this, we will have a quick intermission. So if you do have, questions for 10 to 15 minutes, it's the best time because last time in our seminar, everybody loved to ask questions in there. Get to know you guys a little better. Without further ado, here's my quote. I just learned it today, actually, and it's by Benjamin Franklin. An investment in knowledge pays its best interest. Okay. These are our college speakers. This is Oscar. Say hi, Oscar.
Hello.
He goes to UPenn. Hi, Oscar. And this is Keshav. He's going to Rice University. This is Rishindra, and he goes to University of Texas at Austin, the CSD college. It's a big deal, by the way. And this is Tejas, and he goes to A&M as a Brown Scholar. And we're going to get to know them a little more and about their own credentials. And Oscar, take it away.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
You can just talk.
I know, I'm learning. So I was accepted into the class of 2027 for the regular decision round. I didn't apply early decision. If you don't know what that is, we'll get into it later, but yeah, that's just a general information. I will be majoring in electrical and systems engineering and in the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at UPenn. And just a little summary of my extracurriculars, with my favorite ones being shown here is, my favorite one is I was an apprentice mechanic at a local auto repair shop. So a little bit about me is I'm really into cars and I want my future career to be related to the automotive industry. So getting this job after my junior year in the summer was really important to me, and just getting more experience. And this is actually, I think, what got me into UPenn, because after I got accepted, my admissions counselor sent me an email, and in that email he said that my experience with working this job and working with engines and cars is really cool. So I feel like that is a unique point that demonstrated my passion, and it was also good for looking good on a resume and basically showing my passion for what I was doing. And then some school things. We have an artificial intelligence club, which I'm the president of, and for National Honor Society, I'm sure you've heard of it. I was the secretary for my senior year. And then we also had a nonprofit organization where we basically gave free virtual coding lessons to elementary and middle schoolers for free, which was virtual, and it was through Zoom. And we did that for 2 summers, and I was a co-founder and I was the vice president for that. And then also I just had a bunch of other side projects I like to do, relating to my passions, which were computer science. I built an electric bike, which was really fun. And yeah, that's basically it. I'd say in my opinion, the most important thing to do to show with your extracurriculars is what you're actually interested in, because that's what colleges are actually looking for. And admissions counselors are really smart, and they can see if you're just trying a bunch of different things to just write them on your resume. So I'd say do what you're actually interested in, and it'll show, and they can tell that. And I guess we're playing two truths and a lie. So after I say this, we can have people try to guess what the lie is. So I can wiggle my ears. I've broken multiple bones, and my dog Coco just turned 10. Would anyone like to guess what the lie is? Yes.
It's me. I broke my
Cannot wiggle your ears.
What?
You cannot wiggle your ears. That's a lie.
I can't rule my ears.
Do it right now. Prove it. Oh, wow.
I broke multiple bones.
That is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Oscar. So, hi everyone. So, my name is Keshav. I'm studying at Rice University. I'm studying computer science and statistics. And actually, I was accepted early decision in the class of 2026, so I actually just finished my freshman year. And if you guys have any questions later on about early decision, the entire process, I'm happy to talk about it, and just about college experience and life in general, because I just finished my first year last month. So yeah, some of my extracurriculars. So these are kind of the extracurriculars that I got into after my freshman year and during my freshman year, but I'm also happy to talk about my high school extracurricular later on if you guys have any questions. So I guess to highlight my favorite one, so currently I'm a software engineering fellow at Uber. So basically in that program, I'm able to connect with like a software engineer that actually works at Uber, and I get to meet with them bi-weekly and just talk about the software engineering industry and just learn a little bit more about, the technicalities of the job, the different, fields I can actually get into within software engineering, because there are many different opportunities, not just, just being a front end or back end developer. And then I'm also researching at Hula Lab as a machine learning and software engineering intern. And then at Rice, I'm a senior analyst at the Rice Undergraduate Investment Fund. So it's basically like, kind of like we're investing in stocks as teams, so kind of simulating the real market environment. So we are actually investing with real money. So our investment fund has around $40,000, and each of the sectors, so I'm part of the real estate sector, we invest some of our money in specific companies that we research throughout the semester. So I'm an events coordinator for the Rice Computer Science Club, and then I'm also a developer for the Rice Apps OSA program. So Rice Apps is kind of just our software development club on campus, where we kind of simulate like the agile environment where we'll have sprints, we'll have scrums, stuff like that, and then we'll develop some applications throughout the year. So yeah, 2 truths and a lie. So I was on the middle school district winning basketball team. I got in trouble with my university for studying too late at the library, and then the last one is I follow 4 sports consistently. Middle school. So I actually was on the middle school basketball team, and we did win districts. Ever since the last one? Yeah, that actually is the last one. It's actually more like 8 sports. Like, I'm a big sports fan, and I was happy to meet a lot of people at Rice that are also very much into sports. So one thing that we'll talk about later is like when you go to college, you'll find a lot of people that are very similar to you. And I was really able to find a lot of people that were interested in sports and just a lot of things that I was interested in very quickly. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Hello, my name is Shindra, and I was going to be going to UT Austin for computer science and business. So I'm part of a new program that was introduced in 2019, where it takes comp sci and business and combines it into a program. So I'm going to get 2 majors. So I'm going to get a computer science honors and a business honors degree, and then I also got a scholarship through my dad's company. So a scholarship. Also, relating to that scholarship, so there's certain scholarships where you're going to have higher chances and less people applying to them, so we're going to talk more about that later, but just keep in mind those. So my extracurriculars were, I founded this chapter called TSA, Technology Student Association. It's a national organization, but I founded it in my school, and basically there's like technology competitions that we go through up till nationals, and me and Tejas are actually in that together. And then I'm also an Eagle Scout through Boy Scouts of America. And then I also did robotics in my sophomore year. I qualified for the World Championship, but then COVID-19, so we didn't get to go. But I also interned at JP Morgan Chase. I did both front end and back end. And then this year, actually, my senior year, I did that. And I barely got to internationals, but I still got there. It was in Orlando. And then I also did, once again, TSA, digital video production, and we made it to nationals this year. So my 2 truths and a lie are that I can play the guitar well. I was born in Pennsylvania, and I've been to over 13 different states in the US. So what do y'all think my lie is?
I can play the guitar well.
That is my lie. That is my lie.
Okay, thank you, Rachindra.
That was the best lie ever. Okay, what's up guys, my name is Tejas. I graduated from Dallas High School, just like all of these guys, so Dallas representing today. But basically, my extracurriculars was I was a varsity tennis captain at Dallas High School. Our team placed 16th in the state for 6A, which is the highest division, and I was also academic all-state. And through tennis, I founded my own company where I provided coaching and stringing services. So I earned over $10,000 in revenue through that. And similar to Rishindra, I also was a full-stack IT development intern at JP Morgan Chase through back-end and front-end. We got it through Dulles from a connection there. And then I also co-founded CS Haven with Oscar as well. So that was what he was talking about for free summer classes for kids. So we talked about Python a lot and had those for 2 summers. And then lastly, with Rishindra, I'm going to DSA, Digital Video Production State Champion and National Competitor in a couple of weeks actually in Louisville, Kentucky, so that'll be really fun. So my 2 truths and a lie are, my favorite fast food restaurant is Panda Express. Second is, according to my ancestry report, I'm actually 4% Chilean. And then lastly, I was born in a mid-sized town located in central Oklahoma. No. Okay, so the lie is actually, according to my ancestry report, I'm actually 4% Chilean. I'm actually half Chinese and half Indian, so you can understand why my favorite fast food restaurant is Panda Express.
Thank you, Tejas. Okay, so now that you guys know us a little better, we're going to start going on to content. So your college makes a difference, and why does it make a difference? It's because it gives you higher earnings, better employment opportunities, networks and connections, and personal development, whether it's for career or for your life. So some of the things we'll be looking at today is choosing the right college, and within choosing the right college, you're researching not only the academics, not only the rank, but you're also looking at culture and your interests, as well as understanding application components. So you're going to be looking at on the application, what you can find in the application, such as personal statements, recommendation letters, resumes, etc. Then we're going to be looking at navigation of standardized testing, so SAT, ACT, PSAT, stuff like that. A big one, financial aid and scholarships. So we're looking at how you can find these, what portals you can get them through, and trying to get your opportunities up. Oops. After that, we'll be looking at application strategies and timelines. So like early decisions, what's the plan, what you should be doing. From now, it doesn't matter what grade you are, you'll have a good timeline. Then we'll be looking at additional considerations such as like miscellaneous things. Then we'll be moving into Q&A, so you guys can ask us any questions, and then after that we'll be closing it up. So the first one is choosing the right college, and I'll hand it off to Keisha.
Okay guys, so we're going to look into choosing the right college first. This is probably one of the most important components. So there's we think of 6 major components when we think of choosing the right college. First, it's self-reflection. It's before we even start this process, what do we want to do going forward? We're 17, 18 years old, and we're going to be somewhere for the next 4 years. We're committed to this school for the next 4 years. And what's interesting is, in high school, you have to go to a certain high school, but now we're getting to choose where we want to go. Could be anywhere in the U.S., could be outside of the U.S. for the next 4 years. Another thing, a very important thing is considering affordability. So we'll definitely get into a lot of this detail much later when we talk about financial aid and scholarships. Seeking input from alumni, so definitely talking and reaching out to people that go there and people that have gone there, now have a career, seeing what their experience was like, what could they do differently, or just stuff like that is very important as well. Visiting campuses. So sometimes it might be difficult to visit a campus, if it's across the U.S., but if there's schools that you want to visit locally or you want to attend locally, definitely worth going on a tour, just checking out the college life, and there will most likely be students there as well that you can talk to, and this is very important, just to get a sense of how the campus life seems to be and how the students are enjoying it. Exploring majors, of course, you want to study something specific, and you don't have to know right away, even when you're getting to college. A lot of my friends, they're still not 100% sure what they want to do even after completing their freshman year, but it's important to kind of, narrow it down to what kind of field you think that you're leaning towards, because it'll be important that you start to commit to something starting your sophomore year at minimum. And then finally, consulting with counselors. So talking with your high school counselor might be not so helpful. A lot of us know that we go to large public high schools, and it's kind of hard to access these counselors. But it's very important to access the college counselors. So Most universities, I think actually all universities, have these college counselors that are regional based. So, like for example, if you're applying to like Rice or like UT, there will be a certain counselor that you can talk to that can answer any questions. You can email them, try to set up a one-on-one meeting. This is very important for one because they're the people that are going to be reviewing your application. So if you can develop a relationship with them early, it'll kind of stand out when they see your application on the top of their stack. They're like, okay, this person reached out to me. They want to learn more about the school. They actually are interested in coming to the school. That's for one very important. And second, you can just answer a lot of your questions because the college university websites do have a lot of information, but sometimes you might have a question or situation that's particular to you, and it can be answered very well by these people that have worked at the university for so long. So there's two important things that you can get from these counselors. So self-reflection. So yeah, first you want to identify your interests. That's kind of like, what are you enjoying in high school? Like, what classes are you actually enjoying the most of and taking the most from, and what could you see yourself doing in the future? Assessing your strengths, this kind of goes hand in hand with identifying your interests, because I'm assuming for the most part, if you're interested in something, you're probably good at it, or like you could see yourself like wanting to get better at it. Clarifying your academic goals, it's like, what do you kind of want to do with what you're studying, right? So you have these strengths, what can you do with it? Like, how can you make an impact in the future? And this is kind of like a deeper question. You don't really have to worry about it right now, but it's kind of just like, it just goes hand in hand with like wanting to think about, when I'm studying all this, what is it going to be for? How am I going to make myself feel successful and accomplished? And how can I do this based on what I'm studying? And then finally, considering your preferred learning environment. We can definitely go into a lot more about this because private school, public school, large school, small school, all these different factors will definitely affect the way that you succeed based on the type of environment that you prefer. And there are a lot of environments to choose from, and that goes also hand in hand with choosing what type of college environment and picking the right college as well. So considering affordability, so yeah, we'll definitely go into more of this later, but it's very important to consider affordability when you apply. I've noticed like a lot of students, especially adults, like they want to apply to a lot of schools, but one thing that you definitely need to consider is affordability, because some schools will offer a lot of aid, but you should also check out like which students are they giving this aid to? Are there merit scholarships, or is this aid need-based? So a lot of these different factors will impact the decision where even if you do get into the school, are you able to afford it, or are you able to attend the school? And we'll definitely talk more about this later. So Oscar's going to go to visiting campuses.
Alright, so now I'm going to be talking about visiting campuses, which I'd say is very important both for you and for the school. So visiting campuses is important for you because when you're picking a college to apply to or even commit to, it's important to pick the college that is right for you. And I'd say this is something that helped me UPenn because a little bit about me is that like during my entire junior year, I was like my ideal school was to be going to UT, and then after I got it, I was like super excited and basically set on going to this school, and I had even committed to UT before Ivy Day. And after that, I was still like leaning towards UT, but something that really helped me pick UPenn over UT was the actual campus visit, and it was actually very insightful. And so during my tour, what they did was they gave a tour around the whole school, a little bit about like the school's like programs and a little about the history, and then we actually got to eat lunch with current students there, which was really helpful because it was interactive and reassuring that like UPenn was going to be a good community for me. And so I'd say that visiting campuses even before you apply to school is very important because, like I said, you want to find a school that's right for you. So oftentimes, people are going to find that when you visit campus, whether it's virtual or in person, you might not like the school or you might not feel like it's the right place for you to succeed in the future, and that's perfectly fine, and it's why you should visit campuses. And just a little bit about like what you will find when you visit campuses, especially through the guided tours, which I recommend you to take, which is when the school is actually like sponsoring it and taking you through the school, which is they'll show you the academic facilities. So what you would be doing as a student, what you'll be working with, and where you'll be taking classes, the campus culture. They'll definitely show you around the school and the clubs and the organizations, which are like the extracurriculars or what the students do outside of school, and then the residential life, which is huge because you want to know what your living situation is going to be, because I mean you're probably going to be living on campus, at least for your first year. And the support services, which is also important because you want to know like if a school is actually going to be supportive of you, or if you feel like you're going to feel overwhelmed, then you probably shouldn't choose to apply to that school. And like I said, it's also important for schools that you visit campuses because there's a thing called demonstrated interest, which is like, I like to think of it in the perspective of the admissions counselor, which course they're choosing to accept, and whenever a student, they want to think that the student is going to commit to their school rather than choose like a different school. So something that helps them make this decision is demonstrated interest, which means that the student is like actively visiting their campus, signing up for interviews, signing up for different sessions that they host virtually. And every school has this, but you should do your due diligence and do a bunch of research on this, because only a few schools, or not a few, but like some schools consider it and some schools don't. Like I know, for example, Duke and Rice are heavy on demonstrated interest. So if you want to get into these schools, it's important that you visit campus and like basically show that you're interested in the school. And like I said before, I know that like visiting campuses far away from you may be hard, so that's why virtual campus tours are so helpful, and you should definitely include this as part of your research in choosing which schools you want to apply to. And then, like I said, you want the school to be right for you. That like you want to know what you'll be doing at this school and if it's actually going to support your hobbies and your passions. So knowing all the different majors that schools offers, because every school offers different majors and some of these are ranked differently. Like a school might have a stronger engineering department but a worse business department, and you don't want to apply for the school just to get like the worst, like the lower ranked major or the ones that they don't support their students in. So this is also very important.
So now we're going to go into the application component. So I think we gauged the audience, and it seems like a lot of you guys are seniors, so this is going to be very important for. So yeah, starting out with a quote by Steve Jobs: "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." I think this just kind of goes hand in hand with what me and Oscar were talking about earlier. Like when you're applying to college and when you're choosing what major you want to do, you want to make sure you love what you do, because if you don't really like what you're doing and you're doing it for a different reason than like because you love to do it, it's going to be hard to slog through those 4 years and just work beyond. So just a nice quick to get started. So the application timeline. So we'll go a little bit faster with the first two components. So 9th grade is kind of just research and exploration. So 9th grade, obviously, you're just into high school, getting used to these a little bit harder classes. Maybe you're taking a taste of your first AP class, or you're getting ready to take a taste of your first AP class in 10th grade. So just research and exploration. And then 9th or 11th grade, definitely recommend building a resume. So it might seem a little bit early to start building a resume, in 9th or 10th grade, but I think it's definitely just a good way to keep track of what you've been doing in high school, because what I've seen is like if you're starting to write your college applications in 12th grade, right, and you haven't really kept track of what you've been doing, for the past 3 years, although you might have done a lot of stuff, you might have forgotten a lot of the small important details that, might be useful for college admissions officers to learn a little bit more about you that, you kind of might have forgot about yourself. So it's important to build a resume, just for yourself to keep track of what you're doing. It's not to be super organized or anything, but, it's just helpful for you, just for a personal sake. And then, yeah, application preparation, so 11th grade, or more tailored towards the end of 11th grade, kind of just getting your thoughts together, thinking about the last 3 years, this is the summer before applying, figuring out, what you want to start writing about, what you want to include on your application that you think will be really relevant for a college admissions officer to know about you. And yeah, application submission, so this is kind of a broader time frame. So you can start submitting, I believe, as early as August or September for some schools, and then, of course, you want to submit by early decision, which I believe is November 1st, and then the regular decision deadlines are like December for UT, I believe, and then for most other schools, it's like the first week of January. So it's during your winter break, I believe, your last week of winter break. So that's kind of the application submission time. It's a broad couple of months, but to be early is always to be better, because some schools do rolling admission, so they'll consider your application before if you submit it earlier. And then finally, financial aid scholarships. So this is something you can start now, but you can honestly do it even in the summer before before college. So this is kind of a very broad frame. This is kind of like, do it at your disposable time. You don't really have to, get on it while you're in college applications. You can, once you're settled in, committed to college, then you can, start working on it. But a lot of these scholarship deadlines are, around the same time as when college applications are due in January or February. So you want to try to take advantage of all these scholarships, because a lot of them do have early deadlines, and they also might consider you for rolling type decisions, where if you apply earlier, they'll consider you faster. And we're going to have a section on scholarships, I believe, so just to get a little bit more information about that. So exploration of the resume. So obviously the first thing you want to do, the most important thing, or one of the most important components, is having academic excellence. You want to make sure staying on top of your grades, taking harder classes if you think you're capable. Just making sure that your grades are as high as possible, because this is a very important thing to have for you. And then extracurricular involvement, obviously you want to have something to supplement your grades. You don't want to just show that you've only focused on your grades. You want to also have stuff on the side. So this could be clubs, this could be stuff outside of high school, programs that you're part of, just organizations, anything like that. We can definitely answer more specific questions about this as well. Leadership development, so this goes hand in hand kind of with extracurriculars. You want to try to have leadership within these extracurriculars. You could be a member of a club, but it shows more that you're actually contributing more to the club if you're in a leadership position. Like one of the officers, like a president or vice president. And then of course community service. So with community service, I believe some schools have like the YES program, just trying to get 100 volunteer hours. But it's also nice that instead of just trying to get 100 hours, accumulate 100 hours, it's nice if you commit to one specific type of community service. Maybe you don't have 100 hours, but you have 50 hours at one specific location, or you're helping one specific organization or person. I think that shows a lot more than just having 100 random hours. So community service is very important, and I think if you're committing to one specific program or volunteering opportunity that you're really committed to and passionate about, I think that's very useful to have to show. Of course, pursuing personal interests, so like if you're very interested in a sport, staying committed to that sport. If you play an instrument, staying committed to that instrument. I always recommend, like, if you did something in middle school, like if you started playing orchestra and you're kind of thinking about quitting after maybe your sophomore year of high school, I would recommend sticking out, just because showing like 7 years of committed interest, it's just like a really good sign that like if you're starting something, you're going to commit to it, because admissions officers want to see that if you're going to apply for a major at their university and then you get into that major, you're going to stick it out. They don't want someone that's going to drop the major. They want people that are going to graduate as engineers if they get into that school for engineering. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. And then finally, summer programs and internships. So we can definitely go more into this, but for summer programs, there are specific programs that students can apply for to do like research in high school or get an internship in high school. And I believe some of our panelists, including myself, we did some internships while in high school. So we can definitely touch more on that a little bit later in the Q&A. But yeah, so there are summer programs and internships that you guys can still do even this summer before entering your senior year. And those are also really useful because not many students commit to these. So you might see a lot of your friends doing it, but if you think about it around the nation, not many high schoolers are actually committing to doing this research or doing these internships. So that's a really big boost or spike that you can have on your application as well. So application platforms, I'm sure you guys know about this already, but the most common one is Common App. I guess that's the name. So, and I believe like most of the schools, even I think UT has now gone into Common App. They can definitely speak more on that, but Common App is where like the majority, like I'd say 90% of your schools are going to be. And then college-specific portals. So Common App is where you're going to have your first round of submitting your essays, submitting your resume, your letters of recommendation. All of that will be done on Common App. And then once you submit the application and pay the $75 fee to that school, then you'll have a specific portal from the college itself. And that portal from the college itself might be where you have to submit supplemental documents that college specifically is requesting, and also where you're going to be able to see your decision, like did I get into the university, did I get waitlisted, stuff like that. So it's important. What I tend to tell people is try to create a spreadsheet for yourself where you have all of your different logins, because you're going to have a lot of different portals to keep track of, links to keep track of. So if you have a spreadsheet where you have all your passwords and all your links, it'll be really helpful for you, like when decisions and important deadlines are coming up. And then QuestBridge and more. So QuestBridge is a program that I think it's based off of your financial family income bracket. So if you qualify for a certain level of income, you can apply for the QuestBridge program. And if you get to the national finalist round, what happens is you can match to universities. So you'll rank some schools, and then if you match to any of those schools, you'll actually get a full ride scholarship to that school. So that's definitely a program that you should look into. And yeah, I know a couple people that have done that program, and it's been very beneficial to them because they don't really have any financial concerns, and they can go about their university experience without having these financial concerns to worry about. So yeah, two main types of essays. So first we have the personal statement. So this is kind of like your Common App essay. So as you know, it's like a 600 to I believe 700 word essay, and it's kind of just like about anything you want to talk about. There's like I think 5 or 6 different prompts. The one I remember writing about is like tell us your story. Tell us about your background, or tell us what you came from. What brought you to the place that you are today. So that you have like 5 or 6 different prompts to choose from, and I believe I feel like that's the most important prompt, because this is kind of like where you're really telling the admissions officers, this is my entire history as a person. This is like who I am, and this is who I want to show you who I am. In like only 600 to 700 words. So it might sound like a lot, but in reality, 600 to 700 words is not that much to show like your entire life or like show your entire personality to them. So it's very important that you focus a lot on this personal statement. I would recommend like brainstorming. You don't have to start now, but brainstorming this over the summer is very important to do, just to gather your thoughts and see what do I think I want to talk about. What do I think is the most important thing to represent about myself to an admissions officer, someone I've never met before, someone I might not ever meet, but I need them to get to know me as well as possible. And then supplemental essays. So the majority of universities, public school, private school, they'll have supplemental essays. It'll be around 3, 4, sometimes even 5 essays. These will be around 200 to 300 words, sometimes as low as 100 to 150 words. But they're like specific questions that these universities choose because they want to gauge this is also part of demonstrated interest. Like they'll ask, like, why do you want to attend our specific university? But it'll also ask specific questions. You know, like what specific programs at our university, or you know, what attracts you to our university? Or they'll ask specific questions about your background beyond the personal statement itself. So it's also very important to focus on these supplemental essays and try to start them as soon as possible. But I would always recommend doing the personal statement first, because I feel like once you have a large essay down and you're able to get your entire thought process down, it's kind of like a blanket that allows you to, you can pull ideas from that for supplemental essays once you have your personal statement written down. So now we're going to go into like common cliche essays. I'm sure like if you guys have done a little bit of college research, you've heard about all these topics. I think it's really important just to emphasize that these topics are what admissions officers like see like tens of thousands of times, and if they see this type of topic, they really might not want to read the essay. So the first one is overcoming adversity, and this one is kind of a gray area, because there are ways to make this a solid essay depending on what type of adversity it is. But we don't want to like focus on something that might be too characteristic for a lot of people to have. So we'll go to an example on the next slide, and then we'll see what that's talking about. The next one is volunteering changed my life. The reason that we count this as cliche is because we feel like in this day and age, like volunteering is something that a lot of students tend to do. And although it's not a bad thing, a lot of students want to talk about how volunteering changes their personality, and we feel like if a lot of students are talking about this, it doesn't really benefit you to talk about it as well. There's a lot of other things that you can talk about that are more specific to you as a person that will be more beneficial for you, for the admissions officers to know about you. The next one is sports taught me life lessons. I think this one's kind of self-explanatory, because this, I guess, for the last couple of years, a lot of people have just been talking about this, and it's kind of a very generic topic. A lot of movies are based on this, a lot of books are based on this, so it's just something that really won't benefit you or make you stand out. And especially if you could have been involved, but if you weren't like super involved and that wasn't something you committed to for maybe like 12 or 13 years, it wouldn't really benefit you to talk about sports. And the last one is role models. So role models is kind of a cliche essay for the Common App essay, but I do feel like a role model essay might be really good for a supplemental essay. I definitely had a couple essays where I had to talk about a specific person in my life. So I feel like in those situations a role model essay would be good, but specifically for the Common App, it should be more focused on you. And although a role model can impact your personal development, role model essays have been a lot more common than usual. So just overall, these 4 topics, they all of them can be turned into good essays, but it's just like, since so many people write these type of essays, it's so hard to stand out amongst the amount of people that write these essays. So just like I guess an example, so for overcoming adversity, it's like I faced a difficult injury during high school. Through perseverance, I was able to come back stronger and lead my team to victory. And then for volunteering, like helping at a local shelter, the sports one, playing soccer. So you see, like these are kind of all generic topics. Like there's not really any substance to them. It's just kind of something you did, which is cool, right? But it's not really showing too much substance to the admissions officer, just trying to learn a lot about you. This is kind of similar to regurgitating your resume. That's another thing you don't want to do. We can also touch on this later, but regurgitating your resume is the number one thing we would recommend not to do. So the way I thought about it is, if I'm writing something on my resume or I'm writing something in my activity section in my Common App, do not mention it in your Common App essay. It could be relevant to mention your supplemental essays if that's relevant to the specific question that they're answering, but for the Common App essay, you should not be regurgitating your resume. That is not going to help you at all. And that's kind of what ends up happening, right? Because you're going to talk about volunteering on your resume, you're going to talk about sports on your resume, and then overcoming adversity, that might have to do with one of your other extracurricular activities as well. And then role models. My grandmother has always been my role model because she taught me the importance of hard work and determination. Yeah, so it could be a good story, as I said, for a supplemental essay. I'm not really talking about it for your Common App, because again, it's not really showing your substance, it's kind of just showing, how someone else impacted you. And this could be useful, but they really want to know a lot about you, right? Because they're not admitting someone else, they're admitting you as a person. So that's a little bit of a common cliche essay examples. And there are plenty of more. These are just, I guess, like the ones that we thought were the 4 most important ones and the 4 most common ones that we see when students are applying. And if you guys have any questions or want to know if it's an essay topic that you were thinking about, might be cliche or too common, definitely ask us and let us know during the Q&A. So letters of recommendation. So this one is very important. And I think this is also very school-based, because certain schools will only take 1 letter or they won't take any letters at all. And in some schools you can submit 5 or 6 letters of recommendation. I can definitely touch on this because for Rice specifically, we had 2 required ones, but we could submit up to 3 additional letters of recommendation. I actually did take advantage of that opportunity. So I submitted 5 letters, and I feel like that is one of the reasons that my application was able to stand out. So we can definitely discuss one-on-one later about who to get letters of recommendation from. But first, the most important thing is at your school. Your teachers know you best. You're with them 8 hours a day. you see them like, for 8 months straight. So it's very important to develop these strong personal relationships with your teachers. Primarily, it's best to ask your teachers, but I also actually did ask my sophomore year Spanish teachers. So if there's any teacher in the past, we would recommend like not teachers, but sophomore year teachers, if you think you had a great relationship with them, stay in touch with them, reach out to them. That would be a great letter of recommendation to have. So you want to have like one from, I would recommend having one from a discipline that you're studying. So if you want to go into engineering, get one from, a math or a science teacher, like a physics teacher. And then the other one could be another teacher that knows you really well. But also if you have like, another teacher that's taught you math or science as well in the past, this would also be very beneficial for you. So if you're doing something like business, and you can take a business class, you could choose 2 teachers that, although they might not be, relevant to the course of study that you're doing, if they know you really well and they can speak a lot about you, that would be really useful. Another thing that's very important is when you're asking teachers for letters of recommendation, it's so important to give them a list of stuff that you have done. So for both of the teachers that I asked for in my high school, I basically gave them a copy of my resume and also basically gave them talking points. Because I think a lot of times that happens is teachers have these generic templates that they'll just plug stuff into from your resume. But if you give them talking points, they'll put in a little bit more effort, 5 minutes more effort. But if you tell them what you want to say, and it's not wrong, right? Because you're telling them what you have done, and they don't know a lot about you, right? They might be your teacher, but they have like hundreds of students. So if you give them talking points about what you have done, stuff that you did in their class that might have stood out to them, it'll really help them in writing a letter of recommendation, representing who you are in a better light for the admissions officers. And of course, it'll stand out, right? Because a lot of students are applying to the same school, and if they see that same template, from a letter of recommendation for a teacher, they're gonna be like, okay, this is the same student, same type of student. But if you're giving these teachers specific points that they can talk about, it'll help you stand out as a person, and you'll have more unique characteristics. So yeah, that's kind of our second bullet point. And yeah, asking for a letter of recommendation in advance. So I would recommend, so most of you guys have finished your junior year, but I actually asked both my teachers in the fall of my senior year, so like basically the first or second week of school, like when you get back, that first week's like a buffer week, but that second or third week, you want to start asking them because, pretty soon they're going to be overwhelmed with writing these letters of recommendation on top of schoolwork and these classes, these AP classes that you're doing. So it's important to ask them as soon as possible so that they can, get on that and so that they can write it as well as possible so they don't rush it, right? You don't want them to rush it. You want to give them adequate time. I would say, honestly, 6 weeks is a good amount of time because even a month might be cutting it short, believe it or not, just because they're going to have so much work to do outside of your letters of recommendation. So if you have a deadline coming up in like October, give them like 6 weeks advance notice, and you're gonna have to remind them. You're gonna have to make sure they're on top of it. This is your responsibility. Once you write a letter of recommendation for you, it's not over. You want to make sure that you chat with them every like week or two, just to make sure that they're staying on top of it. And yeah, provide the brag sheet. That's kind of what I was mentioning. The brag sheet is like your resume, but I wouldn't just say resume. I would say resume plus specific bullet points of stuff you've done in their classroom. Like, for example, like, you helped tutor some of their students. They might not have even remembered that, but that's something they would want to mention in the letter of recommendation because that's something you did for them. That's something you showed in the classroom. So that's what I think is a brag sheet. It's a resume plus like another page of like bullet points that you did specifically for that teacher that, no other student might have done. It's something specific to you that they can't copy paste for someone else's letter of recommendation. And yeah, of course, developing positive relationships with their teachers is always good. Always make sure you have good academic standing with them, also good relationship standing with them. You try to go to office hours or, stay after school, talk with them. If you have anything interesting you want to discuss with them, do that. Just take advantage of the time you have with them. Because, you don't have much time as a high school student. You have these 50 minutes, they're teaching 30 kids, and then you have to leave. So if you have any questions and concerns, maybe you can ask your friends, but it's also very important. Take advantage of your teachers. That's what they're there for. They want to help answer your questions, and that's also how you're going to develop these relationships with them. So transcripts and academic records. So this kind of just goes back into making sure that you have as good grades as possible. There are a lot of extracurricular stuff that you can do, but you always want to make sure that school comes first, right? So you want to make sure that you're balancing your schoolwork first. And yeah, transcripts and academic records. A lot of this will be managed by your counselor, so you'll request these transcripts from your counselor, and the counselor will send it to the individual universities for you. But I guess the main takeaway from this is just make sure that you're taking the classes that you think will show you in the best light, right? If you're interested in engineering, take the AP physics classes, take these the AP calculus classes. Just take all of these classes that you think will, show you best in it'll show best what you're good at to the admissions officers, so that they know that what this kid is applying for, they're actually good at. They've actually put in time and effort into wanting to take the hardest classes in this category in high school. Yeah. So now we're gonna go into navigating standardized tests.
That's the intermission. So we're gonna take a quick intermission. If you guys have questions, we'll be walking around with butters as well. So yeah.
We'll be flowing around, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Does anyone want water? Like,
outside, let's say,
So by that time, a lot of people Spanish, it'll probably be high school. So algebra, pretty much no one should just class for comprehension. But you know, some people like they take a lot of activities and then they take them. So that way they like continue that passion. They continue to like carry up to like the end of the senior year. And you can talk about that. They're mostly trying to figure out. So, if you're trying to do volunteering, I'd say NHS high school isn't kind of like like you should pursue your own like community involvement. That kind of kind of all over the place. Like they'll have like the 5 years and like some random like volunteers like on weekend. But like if it's only like 4 hours and 4 hours at a time, you don't really feel that I think NHS is a good because NHS is only in your junior and senior year. So it is pretty good. I wasn't I'll say I learned a lot more about like making my organization just because it shows that you're someone who's like actually thinking about it. Yeah, so but you don't even have to start like if you remember, like I was talking about CSD, and then on the side, I also have my own tennis company. So that was something like it wasn't a school club, but like the thing about it is for early decision, if you do it, you're showing confidence. So slightly higher chance of you getting in. But the thing is, if you do get in, you have to attend no matter the cost. So say like you apply for an exam, but you can actually just make a decision. So if you apply, if you do the financial aid calculator on the website, and then you get accepted. But it turns out that you actually have to pay more than you did calculated, then you still have to know that you have to pay more. Just because like they might have had an extra system. And it is possible to break out of those contracts, but it's like really difficult and like it leads to distributing a bad light. So I'm not sure if this is true, but like there are some stories of like people backing out of an early decision agreement, and then for like the next 10 years, like no students from that school would be admitted to that college. So like something, so it's just like stuff like that because they distrust the high school counselors and everything. And then next comes early action. Early action is not binding. It's not really binding early action. You get to apply early and then get your decision back early. But if you get it, you don't have to do it. You just have this. Yeah, so that's what it is. Public schools like UT Austin does early action, and then some other schools like Princeton don't do restricted early action. You can only apply to their school early and some others, but if you get it, you're not binding.
So I have to like go into the lab. Like I'm not doing a lot, but I'm like some of the assistants.
Yeah, so most colleges don't have financial aid calculators. In fact, if you go to a college and then just search up financial aid calculator, you can type in all your information and they'll give you like the expected amount you have to pay. College. Yeah. Sometimes because the FAFSA, the form that you fill out when you apply to colleges, that shows your income is much more detailed on the FAFSA. So like you have to have like your actual tax other stuff like assets. So that's much more detailed. So the website on most colleges is less detailed. So there might be variations in how much money you actually have. So that yeah, no problem. Do you want
But if I take the lit or just yeah, like I just I just asked the kids or just go to class yeah, Spark that's what I'm looking at. It's kind of like Spark. He took mine. He took like it's easier. No. I'm gonna go to the market. Just for that. They have to go to the just copy paste at the same time. The teacher doesn't care. So they kind of yeah, I think it's the biggest academy, and I think this is where I just talking about like budget. I think it's like a there's like the first time I've heard of
It might be a little bit late to start now, because this is the last time.
I guess for him, it's like, I go with my friends, and then if I like, get something out of it. If I get a little bit of money, then I get some money. I hope I can. Because I'm not free next week, I'm free.
let's say I go there, but I'm so those kids, I'm gonna be making the ball. Yeah, I heard it said zone school said they didn't they just added like first semester was based on like and then just now it's 5 years. It's like yeah, unless it changed so much, imagine being at 90. Yeah, for UT, so like, yeah. There was one student above us last year. He was like third in our class. He didn't get into the He got into like yeah. He just got into school in general. So he went. He didn't get into major. He don't want to put something. So he got into like a lot of public schools. Yeah, you know it's right. Yeah, he didn't get into UT. He told me that 3D he got it as like a liberal arts. He wanted to yeah, but it's also really we're like at the worst part. We're not so rich, but we're not so poor. So they're not gonna give us money. You're like smack down, like your parents can find you like 51, 60, or near like 200. They don't barely get a like if you're really poor, you get a lot. If you're really rich, they'll give you like titles.
So, they have research and library, they'll like so once you do that, then they might honestly you might have to know one paper
It depends because for you guys, it's just about they'll just give you like they don't really like if you put in like for like how much money then they'll probably give you the right amount of time. If you just look directly for
that's something that will always stand out.
It's not too late. You can know, and then you can just drop you just have to speak to for me, I was kind of like, because I like they said yesterday, and told me we can start like Yeah. It just depends. Mine is pretty good because like they like I can go based on my schedule. So like some days if I can't come, then it's fine. But some days if I'm free, I'll just because some days you're like you can just do it. It's not everything is direct. Because some of my stuff like involves like references software, so like if you just download the
But here with this program, I was getting practice software engineers as well. And then they also so I actually software engineers
so right now I told them like have a bunch of stuff you can see but like right now it's not like yeah, and I'll just depend what the service because I'll like to get like a chill one. So it's like if you have time to come in, you just come in. And it's like if you can't, then just do whatever.
So it'll be
Because you're only a high school student, so like you're gonna like look hard. So because the main person is like a PhD student, like your research. Like they can't do something.
So I'll just continue studying yeah, so then I'll actually so this is but yeah, that then I would actually yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess I could no, I don't like falling so much on but I mean, other than that, are you So what's
we have like a lot of things that
but now once half the code is like over, there's still some you don't submit in a while. Like, you know, high school, like what's that? 8 a.m. You took this test. You might have done good. Well, under pressure. How you want it's really not but some so that's why the SAT are not but I would say like if you're not performing at the caliber if you want to something that help right now you don't have to submit if you don't feel like it's ready. They won't look down to it. They are only looking to give you more. They're not taking away from you, they're trying to give you I would say go hand in hand. A little bit more important just because like the things about they really are comparing you to the other students in school. But I would say like more compared to the at least for regular or early you want to make sure your grades are they really are just taking all students to like I think there's like kind of what's So if you want to learn math, I think we're gonna talk about that and then
Yeah, she had a question related to like,
Yeah, they go. Thank you.
That's the biggest I did regular and went out that's why I didn't do that. I mean, it depends, like, because I wanted to like take it about and like have that's all like that's like they have like
so that's what I was about to say. It's not, I feel like, she only chooses like 20 kids, and she wants to like actually write something. so the way that they told us, like, if you are studying, if you are kind of on regular, they would probably what they can conversation. So I actually So what I was
Wait, that's like a conflict. Algebra 2. Algebra joke. Algebra 1 and algebra 2 joke. Pre-cal was fine, it's just pre-cal was easy. She just made it like really hard for everyone. We just so much. I feel like I don't think they'll get about all of them. Just from my heard is like the counselors, they have like 30 minutes to look at it out. So they're gonna like kind of skim through your, see those things your resume, and then they'll just look at like your main points. So they're gonna look at too much of the class. Like they'll see it, but it's like it's an auto pre-count or pre-count, but it's like what matters is like if students can take out the students took calculus because they didn't get it. Because then they'll know, okay, this is get it. I heard like if you do the work and if you do everything besides, then it's pretty easy. But it's just like it's math, you keep it simple. Otherwise, I think I could have gone with dogs, but at the same time, I did not want to turn off. I might consider Brazil because what's coding? No, I'm pretty sure because he probably gets this. But like, I just don't know how well you do it. I might do, actually no, I'm not going to do it. So that's what's I just feel like, I don't know. I believe every time I don't find it important, so I'm like, I mean, there are like, why is that 3 before Bro, it's already over there.
No, I didn't get it. I saw this video.
Get 2 minutes, make it That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, apply for your information, but on top of that, that's what I said. I was checking because I was like, oh fuck.
It's like highlights.
Waiting for Keisha.
I'll go through certain accents.
I checked the. Oh my goodness. You're good on that. Just
Don't
Actually,
use eyes. That's my secret. I did use that.
someone's picture.
Are we the authors? Like,
You can, but it might
Like, we're just,
depend.
we're
No,
finding,
you probably can.
finding
If you purchase that then you'll have time to extend your school. If you're applying early, I
but
don't think
basically like,
it's August.
but because you're the kid, you can't know.
But if it's so low, if you take like 3 times, you have it, just don't take it.
As long as you don't. You can charge as much as you want.
I did not get it yet.
Keisha, do you want to finish first? I can let you finish first. Sorry. Hey everyone, thank you for our intermission break. We'll be heading back now. We are in a little bit of time crunch, but we should be able to finish our session. So don't you worry, guys. So we're going to move on to 3 and up. We're going to go into navigating standardized testing, and I'll skip you.
all right. So my spiel on standardized testing is it's important to try hard on it, but if you don't do well, then it is not that big of a deal. Because a lot of schools now are test optional, which means that you can choose to submit your like standardized test scores if you want, or you could not, like, because it's test optional. And I know that like a lot of people who went test optional can still get into really good schools. So if you do good on it, it's really good for you, but it's not like that big of a deal. So yeah, so the big 3 of standardized tests. The PSAT you take up until 11th grade, and in 11th grade, this is the one that actually matters. I know that a lot of us are seniors next year, so this actually doesn't matter, but what you take it for is basically if you get a really good score, you become a national merit semifinalist, and that is like an honor, and it can get you a lot of scholarship money, but if you like don't do good on it, it's like I said, it's not a big deal. And for the most important ones, I'd say is the SAT or the ACT. And I'd say focus on one of them, like don't try to get a good score on both of them. If you get like a 15, 60, then there's no need to take the ACT as well. A little more into that on later. And then AP test, honestly, this has nothing to do with college admissions. So like if you got like a 2 on one of your AP tests, it doesn't matter at all. Like honestly, colleges don't even consider your AP test scores that much, so or much at all, so don't worry about that. As for the SAT and ACT, the SAT, I say if you're better at math and like problem solving, then go for that one. That is the one I took because my strongest suit is math, and the ACT has a science component, which I don't like science, so I didn't take that one. Basically, that's it. So how the scoring works is you self-report your scores and then you also send it in later. But there's a thing called super scoring. So if you got like a 1550, like an 800 on math and then a 700 on reading one time, and then you can take it multiple times, and the second time you got like a better score on the reading, like a 760 or something, you can super score that so that the one you send in is an 800 math and a 760 reading. So I'd say that's really good. And for ACT, it's like the same thing, I think. But for test optional, I'd say that if your score is, look up like the schools you're applying to, and then if your score is above the 50th like percentile, then go ahead and send it in because it puts you above the average of like students at that school. And then same for ACT, but I'd say that like for all score breakdowns of the SAT, if it starts with a 7, like 700 something, go ahead and send that in. And for ACT, if it starts with 3, so like 30 something, then also send that in. Those are good scores. Oh yeah, studying tips, practice consistently. So like you want to start really early. I'd say if you're still going to take the SAT during senior year, then start like right now. And then you don't have to do like 2 hours of practice a week, but like maybe like 30 minutes to an hour a week consistently will help you a lot, and it'll keep you ready for when you actually take the test later. And then I say starting early and then recognizing patterns. So the way to solve standardized testing is to figure out like what the test makers are actually asking you, because in every test, how standardized testing works is it's all like it's made so that everyone can like find a way to answer the right question, and then they do the same patterns for how they ask the questions and how the right answer works throughout every test. Also, don't use test masters. It's a waste of money. There's a bunch of free resources that are better, and then we might also offer like help for this later. But so for like the best study material, the official SAT guide, you want to take actual published SAT tests, because those are going to reflect what you see when you take the actual ones. Khan Academy is also very good. It's like they're like sponsored by the SAT, or like they have a relationship, so it's going to be the same thing basically. And then the black book, like I said before, you want to recognize patterns on how they ask questions, and the black book is really good at explaining how to solve problems and recognize like what they're asking for. And that, I'd say that's the one that helped me the most with the SAT.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to financial aid and scholarships. So there are a ton of different college aid options when you're looking for scholarships. The ones, we're going to start off with grants and scholarships. So these are the ones that you don't need to repay back. And then there are federal student loans which you need to pay back. So grants and scholarships, it's pretty much just free money, like cash you can have. But federal student loans, they give you a really low interest rate for repayment plans. And then work study programs, you could like work at the cafeteria or something like that at your school, or work on research and they might pay you. And then there's also private scholarships that I actually received, and I'll talk about that more in future slides. And then there's also tuition payment plans. This is basically just paying according to a payment plan that the college sets up for you, like on a schedule for a payment. So the power of the PSAT. So in my opinion, the PSAT helped me get the most scholarships. Basically, if you place in the top 1% of the PSAT in your junior year, it unlocks a lot of scholarships, including full rides to UH, Arizona State, UTD, Texas Tech, and much more. So for me, I was able to get a full scholarship to Texas A&M through the PSAT by placing in the top 1%. So this top 1% actually goes by state levels. So on the off chance that any of you guys live in Louisiana, the score you need to receive to be in the top 1% in Louisiana is much lower than Texas. So in Louisiana, you would have to be like 1420, but in Texas, it's about a 1480 and above. And then in places like New Jersey, you would have to get like a 1510. So yeah, it kind of depends. So for me, I got a 1480, which barely got me PSAT, but I got kind of lucky. But yeah, that allowed me to get $50,000. So if you get in the top 1% in the PSAT in your junior year, you become a National Merit semifinalist, which automatically guarantees you $50,000 to Texas A&M. And then if you have good essays, you can possibly get an interview opportunity for the other $50,000 to total $100,000 in scholarships. So here are some examples of popular scholarships, but however, I'd recommend you to first look at local scholarships, because these scholarships, although they do have high amounts, the thing is that anyone in the entirety applied to them. So you're going to be placed against a ton of different people around the states. So what I actually did, what I would recommend, is to look for Houston area scholarships that are restricted to our area. So for example, the Houston Rodeo, actually, they offer a $20,000 scholarship, and that's what I was able to receive, because they actually limit it to school districts only in like HISD, FEISD, and around the Houston area. And they give 800 scholarships of $20,000 because they have a really good donor base. So as you can see, in comparison to these scholarships where you have like hundreds of thousands to millions of people applying, you could apply and Google local scholarships that might be lower in amount, but over time, if you add enough of them up, you can actually get more from the time you put into writing the scholarship applications, because scholarship applications, like colleges, do take a lot of time and you do have to write essays for them. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. I would recommend, no matter your income level, just do it. You never know what type of aid you might get from the federal government, especially now. Like, I don't know how the government's doing. They're like implementing new programs. And the CSS profile, this is for private colleges usually. I did have to do this for a couple of private colleges that applied to, and I think Georgia Tech does it as well, but I'm not sure. But I would recommend, as I said, no matter your income level, just submit it. You never know what type of money you're gonna get, and if you do end up getting something, that's basically just free cash. So there are types of scholarships. It's merit-based and need-based. Merit-based is based on your academics, extracurricular activities. So basically things like your profile for applying to college in the first place. While need-based is for people who might be lower in income. So based on where you stand, need-based mostly applies to stuff like FAFSA and stuff like that. But merit-based, usually you can apply for them and you can get them through college. Colleges usually get, it's like the air driving now. And then usually merit-based, colleges actually give a lot of scholarships. In fact, Texas A&M actually has their own separate scholarship application on whenever you actually apply. So do keep in mind for the scholarships as well. So number 5, application strategies and timelines. End it off through Shannon.
Okay, so there's different types of timings for applications. So there's rolling, early decision, early action, and regular, going from most urgent to least urgent. So rolling is basically the first person who applies is the first person who gets their application checked. So for those, you want to do that as soon as possible. I think I was talking to a few of you around here and said that UTD and A&M are some of the ones that I know are rolling. I'm sure there's other ones outside of the state and like maybe a few in state as well. But those two are the ones that I know are rolling. So for those ones, I suggest apply as early as possible if you can. The day that you can apply, the day that application's open. And then there's also early decision. Early decision is basically where you basically took the decision that you want to go to the school if you get in. So even if you get into another school and you, I guess if you get to another school and you want to go to that school, I would suggest against going early decision because that means that you already chose to go to the school because it's a binding application. So I know that a lot of Ivies do early decision. I know UT didn't do early decision, but they did something called early action, which is the next thing. And basically it's non-binding, but you apply early. So it's not rolling, but it's where everyone who applies early gets their application checked before the people who apply regular. So UT's early action is in November, and the regular is in December. So if you get from early action, if you get deferred, which is basically they didn't reject you, but they just moved you on to regular decision, it's better than getting rejected after doing regular. So I guess you could say you kind of have two chances when you do it, early action or early decision. Early decision as well, you can get deferred. And regular decision is just basically the regular deadline. And there's nothing wrong with doing regular decision, but I would suggest applying earlier if there's an option. And so staying organized is very important. So like a few of us mentioned, having spreadsheets of the logins that you have is really helpful. Just knowing what organizations and a few colleges that you like, because sometimes there's interest-based questions. So you want to have like an organized spreadsheet of like a few organizations in that college, and then what colleges you're actually applying to and where they are. And there's also like a few websites like Naviance is pretty helpful to where you can like see information about that college, like the standardized tests and things like that. And so staying organized is really important because you want to keep track of what you're doing, and that can help you maximize your potential. So a balanced college list, you want to first research and explore. So gather information. There's plenty of websites. Each college has their own website. There's also, like we talked about, campus tours, virtual tours. And then through that, you want to assess the fit and compatibility of your colleges. So you can compare, like I said, in Naviance, there's like test scores and, there's also acceptance rates specifically for your school, and then acceptance rates in general for like each major. And so you want to take a look at that and see like which one's more compatible for you. And then consider school difficulty. So there's 3 types that we recommend. There's your safety, your target and your reach. So safety is basically, you're looking at the standardized tests and the acceptance rates, you know, you're pretty sure that, you're almost certain that you're gonna get into it. So it's always good to have a few safety schools that you wanna do. And then there's also matches where you're not 100% sure that you're gonna get into that school, but you are matching like their average scores and their average acceptance rates. And then finally, there's the reaches where you could get in, right? You can get into any college, but you're not entirely sure, even though it's like above what you might be able to do. But it's still always good to apply to those reaches because you could still get in after they like read your S's or something like that. And so honors and special programs. So certain colleges have these honor programs where after applying or during applying, there's specifically in that college a more focused program. So for me, I did the UT Texas CSB, which is basically you get 2 degrees computer science and business. And what happened was after I applied to my major, which my first choice was computer science, and the requirement for it was that I had to have, my first and second choice had to be computer science and business. So after I did that, I got the option to essay, another supplemental essay, which talked about computer science and business and to show my interest in computer science and business. And I'm sure for like UT Turing, which is computer science honors, Berkeley MBT, and then Brown Scholars, there's a separate application that you have to do for these. Some colleges, you do it as you apply, and then some colleges you do it after you get in. So keep an eye out for those ones. And then there's also transfer admissions. Basically, when you're applying to transfer from one college to another. So let's say you go to A&M for your first year and you want to go to UT afterwards, you can still transfer to that, but it's like another application. You have to do applications again and talk and show your transcripts more from your college, and then you know, it's just like the application process once again. And in some cases, it's harder than actually going into the college, but it's still an option. And so yeah, let's talk about our personal journeys. So.
No, we won't. Actually, we'll combine that with our Q&A session. So we're going to move on to our FAQ session. So if you want to ask us a little bit more about our personal anecdotes, we will. So we'll take about 10 questions, and then we'll go into thoroughly in detail. So if you did have any questions that you don't think anyone asked yet, that might be actually helpful if we could answer that right now.
Can I go first?
Sure.
Would you be sharing this deck with the participants here? Or?
We will be sharing this presentation. We'll be sending it out. So actually, it's on our website right now, on our blog, because it's the same one as the first one. But we have to fix speakers to sign it. So
We also do have a recording of the entire thing.
Yeah. So if you know anyone that missed out or would like to see this recording, we are streaming on YouTube, and our YouTube can be found on our link tree. It's on our link tree. Yeah. And so I'll review the link tree at the end. Does anyone else have any questions? You guys are free to choose from any of these questions. So we'll go with what factors influence your decision when choosing which college to apply to?
Wait, I think someone raised their hand.
Sure.
Oh yeah, so what is the benefit of being in honors college?
Rashindra can answer that very
Well, it depends on what you want to do. So if you're like really, really interested in something, let's say for me, my honors college, I get more specific opportunities. So there's recruiters that come specifically for CSB. So it's a smaller cohort. So all of UT is like 40,000, and I'm assuming for computer science specifically around 500-ish, 400-ish people. But for me, I only have to compete against like my 30 other cohorts versus like 400 other people for that opportunity, and also get access to certain organizations that are specifically for CSB. And I guess in general, there's also something similar for other organizations, other honors classes. And your classes, since they're smaller, you're gonna have more of a connection with like the people around you, and your professors will also have like smaller classes. So yeah, I guess it's like the smaller cohort and more focus on yourself.
Yes, sir.
Is it completely taboo nowadays to not go to community college for the first couple of years and then switch over?
Is it completely taboo not to go to community?
for your essays, where you stand with yourself, and I would say it does take a little bit of self-reflection, but it is worthwhile to start a little bit earlier.
Do you have on the website any resources that you could use while preparing for essays?
So we do a lot. Occasionally, we do post like our own content. So on our like Twitter, like Instagram, TikTok, or on our blog, we post sometimes like our own resources. But sometimes we will mention a little bit more about that.
The last question.
What criteria should you consider when evaluating financial aid and scholarship opportunities?
Oh, I'm just gonna stand on the front.
Thaddeus is also really good at this.
It feels.
Thaddeus, would you like to answer that question?
That's the last one,
That's the last one.
Scholarships. Okay, so I would say for me, like, I would say if you imagine like the time you put in, like I know people get jobs and stuff to do scholarships, but for me, I've always thought of scholarship, like applying to scholarships, kind of like a job, like because I set a certain amount of time, and if I do get an output in the form of scholarships, there's a really big opportunity for me to make financial gains, because I always wanted to make sure that I was paying for my college and I wouldn't have any financial burden on my parents. So putting aside time for scholarships, so say for example, I applied to a $1,000 scholarship in the Houston area and it takes me like 10 hours. Even though it might not take me that long because I do have my resume already and I do have essays that I've written for many like other colleges or like stuff or other scholarships, I'll say that even if it's only $1,000 and I put 10 hours into it, that's still like $100 per hour. So if you apply to enough scholarships, you're going to see results. Just make sure you start early and make sure that you're putting yourself like the best version of yourself out there on your scholarships, and take some time, especially for the essays, and then go to your resume, because once you have a solidified resume and then solidified essays and personal statement, then you can apply that to scholarships as well.
Also, like how I mentioned, I got a scholarship through my dad's company. Maybe y'all could like use your parents' companies as well. There's probably something you could find. There's like many like company dependent scholarships where they give you like a certain amount each year after you apply. Amount of people doing it, so you have a higher chance.
So I have heard there's a myth, or maybe it's true. So if the student have 529 account and there's like chunk of money in there, would that affect your chances of getting scholarship?
I can answer. Is 529 a savings one?
Yes.
So that's actually a huge problem for a lot of students attending private universities right now. Because, so first I'll talk about the FAFSA thing. So FAFSA introduced this new rule where if you have a sibling attending a university while you're in university, they will not increase your aid. So when my brother, that's actually my brother right there. When he starts college, I will actually not be getting any additional aid. Well, so right now I would be, but if the certain university just implement this policy, which is completely possible because FAFSA is universal for the whole U.S. If they implement this policy, when he starts college, Bryce won't give me any additional aid. I'll have to pay the amount I'm paying as if I was the only child. So then going into a 529 savings account, if you have even a little bit amount of money, and like so for example, like Bryce, the way that they do financial aid is they have tiers where if you're under a certain income threshold, they'll give you like half tuition. But even if your total income is under this threshold, if you have even a little bit of savings, the way they do the calculation is that even if you have a little bit of savings, you end up just not getting any aid. So if you do have money in the 529 account, it does like negatively affect aid a good amount, I'd say. I'm sure it's a case by case basis, but I'd say like if both of your parents are working for the most part and you have some money in the 529 account, chances are that the amount of aid you'll get will be slim to none. In like I guess a middle class circumstance for the most part. So it is kind of like sucked that they do that, but that's just kind of how it is. So if you do have a 529 account, it's a big negative impact on the aid for sure. Yeah.
Take 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll go into closing remarks.
The third question?
What resources or tools did you find the most helpful during the college application process?
So something I did was Reddit. Okay, so there's a community on Reddit, like I'm sure like a lot of you know about it, but it's called, or there's a subreddit called Applying to College, and basically, like a lot of stupid stuff happens in there because it's like you talk with like a bunch of like you get to see what other people are saying that are applying to college, but the subreddit itself has like it's like mini wiki where it has like a bunch of guides on how to like the whole process, and it gives a bunch of tips. And also there's this I don't know like what the website was, but you sent it. College Mind, right? Like there's like a simulator, and also you see like past essays that people used to get into top colleges, which was really insightful for me. Yeah, I'd say those like are the two things that I use the most.
Yeah, and like people in general. Don't be afraid to ask other people, like your friends. You might have a friend who's like way better at writing than you.
Yeah.
And so I asked a bunch of my friends. So I'm like a decent writer, but I have like some friends who went over my essays and just made it 100 times better. So just ask a bunch of people to edit.
Yeah, one thing to add on is I will say like people are definitely like your best friend in this. And one thing that I learned is you don't want to ask too many people just because it's your writing and you should be confident with the way that you're presenting yourself. So what I was doing is I feel like my parents were pushing me to ask so many people, like they're saying ask a relative, ask this teacher. But I feel like if you ask too many people, then you're losing the substance of your own writing. And that's kind of, you know, that's not showing the admissions officer who you really are. Like, sure, you might be phrasing something in a better way, but it's your authentic self. And one thing that actually, so I'm sure you guys know there's so many admission services that are available, like for writing essays and stuff, like all of these like Ivy Prep where you can pay like $500 an hour and they'll help you. So I actually started out my process with like getting someone, we were paying like $70 an hour, she was helping me write an essay. And I realized within like 2 sessions that it's not helping me at all, and I'm not able to properly convey what I want to say. Because effectively, they're writing your essay for you. You're paying someone to write your essay, and I was like, this is not how I want to do it. You're not even going to feel accomplished for the most part if you get into this university, if someone else is writing your essay for you. And I feel like, you know, if you write it, you put your best foot forward, whatever you get, you got that yourself. So basically, we stopped the service, and all my essays I wrote myself, and then I just got, you know, friends and family to help me edit it. And you know, you feel so much more successful when you got something because you earned it yourself. So I will say, like, you know, be proud of yourself, be proud of what writing you're putting forward, and just because some universities accept you, you're just, you have something better ahead of you. So I will say, these online services are good, but there is a toxicity on the web. Like with Reddit, you know, there's a lot of these students that like, you know, are showing all these extracurriculars they did, like they've done all these international science fairs in high school and stuff. You don't really want to compare yourself to them. You know, you can go mentally wrong when you have a lot to be proud of. So don't like compare yourself with someone else online. You know, like you never know. There's so many people that lie online. So I will say it's best to stay, you know, where you are. You know, Fort Bend is such like a vibrant community. We have so much diversity, so many smart people. You know, Fort Bend, these universities know how good of a district Fort Bend is. We send so many students to these top universities. So take advantage of the people that are around here, all these students, all these parents, all these teachers, resources. I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself for sure.
Third from the bottom.
Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in your college application journey?
I would have started my essays earlier. That was definitely pretty stressful for me. So I think I was, for A&M, which was October 15th, I was writing until basically the very last day, and it was pretty stressful. And I tried to start in the summer, but I was like a little negative. Yeah, I would suggest start your essays early, and then just be confident in what you are. So, like how K-Shop was saying, don't compare yourself with others a lot. So, I actually asked K-Shop for his resume, and then when I looked at it, I was like, oh my god, he has so much stuff that I don't have. But then I realized that after, like, while I was doing it, I shouldn't compare myself because I have my own different things, you know, and it's always best to just have confidence in yourself. Whether or not, like you said, whether or not the college accepts you, that's different. It's just you want to try your best to put yourself out there.
One last thing I just want to add on is like, it might sound like there's a lot of contradicting information because I know like there's a lot of these like type of information sessions online where, so now we're saying like you shouldn't compare yourself to others, but this entire college application process, like I was talking earlier, is you are being compared to other people in your high school. That's just kind of how the system is, and you can't really fight the way that admissions are done. So the best thing that you can do is put your best foot forward. Don't really worry about what other people are doing, but you know, make sure that what you're doing is because you want to do it and you feel like it represents you best and it's going to put you in a better light. You know, don't do something just because you see someone else doing it, because yes, you are going to be compared to others, but if you're doing something because someone else is doing it, chances are they're probably doing it because they're good at it and you won't be as good as them anyway. So if you do something you're good at, you know, it's going to show you in a better light. So that's just kind of, I wanted to mention that just because I feel like some of the information might seem contradictory just because of the way the system is and kind of what information we share, but it kind of is all about you, you know. It's all about showing yourself, your authentic self.
Oh, something I like to mention, I know like a lot of people will probably apply to RISE. It's just one thing, they're choosing on demonstrated interest, and every year they have like sign-ups for interviews, like they don't contact you for interviews, so they actually have a limited amount of interviews on their website, and it fills up really quickly. So I'd say if you want to get into RISE, definitely
You should do an interview.
Make sure to sign up for an interview like as soon as possible.
Yes, 100%.
So I had just a related question. Only S is a parameter, or are there universities that are asking for video of your own, like because you can get any other people to write your essay, but when you are like talking in front of the camera, then you have to be very candid. So are there any university asking some another means of application process apart from essays?
Yeah. So yeah, some schools for engineering, I think like if you're like into arts or something, and engineering, it's a thing called the maker portfolio, or like basically you make a video about like something you did, and I know MIT offers it, Columbia also did it, Brown too, yeah. It can be like based on different prompts, but also interviews are like some schools after you apply they contact you for an interview, and you should definitely accept it if they do. But that's another way of like in person, making sure that like, you're not lying on your resume or something.
Yeah, but again, those are all optional actually, most of them, right?
The interviews?
No, not the interviews,
Or
but the maker portfolios.
Oh yeah, the portfolios. Yeah, they're most of them are optional.
Yeah, but I suggest you do that.
Treat it as, most of the time, I'm
Yeah.
sure like all of us, if it's optional, treat it as you have to do it.
Yeah.
It'll help you. Just treat it as optional. Don't treat it as optional. Treat it as required.
Second last.
How did you ultimately make your final decision on which college to
Yeah.
So for me, I was actually already thinking of UT itself, because it's like in state. I can see it's like a perfect distance away from my family, but also close enough to where I can visit them if I want to. So yeah, I was already like thinking of UT in a higher sense, but then I got into the honors thing afterwards, so that was like my tipping point, because it's in state, it's less expensive, and it's also closer. So that was mine. And then
For me, I'd say like some things you definitely have to consider is student life. So like if you would actually be happy there, like some schools I know like are very cutthroat and competitive, and a visit definitely helps with that. Just making sure like, because you want to pick a school that you actually will enjoy being at, because that's ultimately like where you will thrive. And then also it's like the opportunities there. So like the organizations, if there's like a lot of organizations you want to join, I know that like I did research on UT and UPenn, and there were a lot of like clubs there that I was interested in, and also like future career options, such as like if you want to like do research with professors, or the job prospects that come out of it. So like I know at UT Austin there's like a ton around there, like of anything you can do. And then also it's like alumni connections, so like UT, A&M, and a bunch of other schools have a bunch of connections which will help you. So yeah, those are like some things you should consider, and what helped me consider.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not bad to be a big fish in a small pond. So for me, at A&M, I'm in a very specialized and interesting program that only 50 people get. But the thing about that program is if I wanted to do research or go into any of my interests, I wouldn't have any problems compared to going to a much rigorous school where I have to actually compete with other students. So if I really like A&M for the campus and like the culture as well, but just because of that factor, like it's not bad to go to a school where there may not be as much prestige, I guess, in the ranking, even though it's ranked really high, I mean, in engineering. But I would say, don't, like, you gotta think about like how you see yourself on the college and what you plan on doing like clubs and extracurricular wise as well, apart from the grades.
And yeah, I think one thing that helped me is once I got into Rice, my mom really wanted me to go to UT still. So what we did is we all went as a family to Rice, and we talked with like a student, like the first week we saw, and like it just kind of helped get insight on like kind of the student life and how it really is to be a student there. And like how Tejas was saying like about the cutthroatness, or how the school community is like academically, you can't really understand like if it's a school's really cutthroat or if it's like really collaborative until you actually go there and talk to a student there. Like for example, like UC Berkeley's a great school, but one thing that actually drew me completely away is I've heard it's incredibly cutthroat. Some of their intro computer science classes have like I think 1,700 students. My entire freshman class size is 1,200 students. So it's just like thinking about even the size of the freshman class, and how much help and how many resources you can actually access. Because I think one thing that isn't really emphasized when you're applying to college is when you actually get there, then you gotta work, right? Like I learned like, okay, I got into Rice, but it's really hard once you get to, even if you get into like MIT or Stanford, you have to work so hard when you get there. you got in there, that's like half the job. Now you're gonna have to actually work there for 4 years, and it's gonna be long nights, long days, you know. So going to a school and talking to a student and seeing how their life is, how they're able to make friends, you know, what type of resources they're able to access when you get there will be really useful for you to understand. Because some people thrive in a very academically competitive environment. You know, that's like kind of how they thrive. Like high school, if there's a lot of competition, you know, it's just like you're on your own, they thrive. That's good for them, and that's good for them. But for me, it was more like I wanted a collaborative environment, less cutthroatness, you know, just being able to access a lot of resources where, you know, no one's like fighting for the same thing. We're all helping each other grow stronger. And in a smaller environment, more tight-knit community, that's kind of what drew me to the school that I chose. So visiting the school, I think, is the number one thing you can do. And if not, then definitely talking to students there and just genuinely asking them like how their student life is, and you know how they're able to succeed, and you know what resources you can access versus what they wish they could access at another school.
Okay, we'll take one more question, but if not, we can go on to closing remarks. Yes, ma'am.
What were y'all's like personal statements about?
My personal statement was about something a little minute, so it was something unique. I've seen a lot of this. It's actually a very successful approach of like doing something like a small experience, because it is such like a small or indifferent experience that you know you find yourself in a very unique position. So I did mine on literally just watching TV and hearing someone speak about something and how that changed my life, the impact of my life.
I talked about like how like a little bit of a hard time with my friends led me to find another community through a club that I started.
I talked about washing cars in mine. Like your essay should be like something like completely like unexpected. That's what really like draws the reader. And mine was about like, so like car washing was actually what like got me interested into cars, because after I started driving, I would like take terrible care of my car, but then like I started doing research and like proper care and like how to wash it properly, and then I just got like super into cars, and that's just like what started it all for me. So that's what I wrote about.
I talked about in the summer before my senior year, I learned guitar to teach to an apartment complex that was in a lower income area of Houston.
Yeah. So just one thing to emphasize that we talked about in the beginning, as you see now, like it's really important. Like we talk about something that you know hasn't already been sticking on your application, just because I feel like regurgitating information that's already been there isn't really doing anything for you. It's like just kind of rewriting the same thing that you already wrote just to fill up space, and that's what we don't want to do. So for me, when I started out, you know, with the person that I was getting essay help from, I mean, I couldn't really think of anything, and what we came up is talking about my 5th grade graduation speech. So that's what I started writing about. But I realized that's something I don't really think represents who I am. So actually, it was interesting. I started writing about this a little bit, and then in September, so my birthday's in September, so I had my 18th birthday party, and that was kind of a very interesting event because a lot of things happened in my life, and I actually ended up writing about that. So it's kind of late actually, like something that happened in September is what I wrote my entire personal statement about, and that's what I submitted to like every single university I applied to. So we did say the regret that people have the most is starting not early enough, but I will say if you start too early, it might be detrimental as well. So all parents, like my parents have been telling me since June of 2021, start your essay. I didn't start till like September or August, right? And you know, it still works out in the end, right? Like you don't have to force yourself to get something done just for the sake of getting it done. You might have some life-changing event. Like for me, really, my 18th birthday party was really life-changing for me. It was groundbreaking. And there were a lot of things that I learned from that, and that's what I wrote about. So, you know, things might happen to you this coming senior year. You enjoy your senior year. If there's anything that, you know, interesting happens, you know, you could write about that, like August, September. So take advantage of the time that you have before you get to submit your applications, and don't worry about having to start now, right? Your parents are going to tell you to start now. You don't have to start now. You can if you want, but sometimes, you know, the essay prompts might change, and also, you know, you might not realize what you want to write about until maybe 3 months from now. That's okay, right? You don't really need too much time to write an essay. Once it comes to you, once the idea is fresh in your head, if you don't force it out, right? If the idea is fresh in your head, you won't have to force it out. It'll write itself. And then that'll take 10 hours, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that much time, right? 10 hours of writing, 10 hours of editing. If the idea comes to you in September, you have plenty of time before the November deadline or whatever. So that's my advice, and that's kind of what I wrote about. Just something that happened to me, even though it was kind of late, you know, ended up being something I really wanted to write about that I turned into my personal statement.
Something really important to college, like to admissions counselors, as far as they're concerned, anything before high school like never existed, right? So thank God you didn't write about 5th grade.
Yeah.
Don't write about anything before high school, because they only care about the organizations that you join, the activities that you do after high school start. That's really matters, and that's the only things that like they really can't consider.
I mean, you could mention something beforehand, but that can't be like the focus
Yeah.
of what it is. Because what you were before high school is completely different from what you were at the end. So focus on what you did for the past 4 years.
Good, thank you guys. We'll move on to our closing remarks. First of all, I was not a speaker this time, but I want to give a round of applause to our speakers today. And I just wanted to, it's not breakouts anymore, but I wanted to show you guys our link tree, which is, we have everything on there. Like someone asked before, like, oh, are you gonna have resources on there? We're gonna post stuff on our blog. We have a website, we have socials like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and then we have a little more to come. And then we have this YouTube session online. I think Tejas, I'm not gonna lie, disconnected a little bit earlier, but I reconnected it. So we have it on YouTube and everything. So if you guys like what you see, like definitely like, we're trying to build a community at the end of the day. So I appreciate appreciate a lot like everyone coming here because this couldn't have been done without you guys. So if we can build a community and like bring out outreach out there, that would be like one of the best things like we could have. But what we're trying to do here is not only building a community but like building a family to build personal relationships. And since we already graduated, we have no point in competing with any of you. So it's like we can give this information like out for free. Like you saw how passionate K-Shop was. Like he knows the right, so he doesn't care. Like he's already successful, he doesn't care. So I'm sure he might hold that information back from his other students. But otherwise, thank you guys for attending. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I just wanted to say something because a lot of you guys were interested about mentoring. So we do offer mentoring. It's like, how can I make this investment into going to college? So it's like the complete mentorship. Like you're basically paired with someone that's going to carry you to the college or to your financial aid. And so what we do is, I'm going to give you two things, which is like almost a no-brainer, right? We have guarantee. We're going to guarantee you whatever you invested in us will be given back to you in scholarships and financial aid, and we'll give you that guarantee, as well as we're like almost like a fraction of, actually a very little fraction of our competitors' cost. I saw a test masters the other day was $4,000 for like 33 hours, which is like insane, right? It's not even a year. And then like Kumon does like $200 a month per subject just to have someone group teach you. So when we're doing this private one-on-one, we just value their time. So we're just helping them out because they're in college and we're all broke college students eating pizza. But we're just helping them at the end of the day. And so we have all these top-notch students that are looking like to help you guys, and like again, no point in like competing with you guys. So if you guys are interested in private mentoring, like we have that service, we have a group session service. So if you guys want to start today, that's cool too. But just to show you guys what we can do, we are offering for 2 weeks from now on. The first 10 people to come up here after this, we can talk and register. We'll just give you guys 2 weeks, which is about 4 hours, for $5. So that's basically like free mentoring. We just want to kind of help us pay our mentors. That's why we're using $5. But it's going to be a group session. So if you guys wanted to get started privately now, we do have different rates. But just to prove it, we're trying to get you guys into sessions. And then we did have a session actually this Friday, which is yesterday, and everybody loved it. We had tons of good feedback. We had someone from Columbia come in and talk, and our girl from Princeton last time. Everybody really loved it. And so if you guys are interested in applying, first 10 people get $5. So that's basically nothing. And after that, everyone else has to apply, and we have to approve from there. But otherwise, now I can play the song again. Thank you, guys. If you guys have any questions,
Hey, good job, you guys. I think you guys are awesome, man. Yeah, I think I would just like to sign up.
You'd like to sign up?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work and congratulations and best wishes to you.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
My name is Raghavendra. Is that my daughter's name? Is that good? Is that good? Or do you not?
Should we give them?
I'll give her.
Let's just like start and then take it out.
What's the student name? Okay.
Yes, you can apply there, and then we'll write your name down. I'll write your name down when you.